You're listening to Parasearch Radio, news, views and reviews from the world of the paranormal from across the UK and beyond. Find us on Facebook, Twitter and the World Wide Web. Parasearch UK Radio. Parasearch Radio, broadcasting to the UK and beyond.
The views and opinions expressed by presenters and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Parasearch Radio or its affiliates and sponsors. Listener discretion is advised. You're listening to Kerry Greenaway and Mark Manley on the Dark Mirror Paranormal Show, only on Parasearch Radio.
Good evening and welcome to the Dark Mirror Show. I am Kerry Greenaway. I'm one of your hosts for this evening. And tonight, my lovely Mark, unfortunately, he's been at a course all week this week. So he isn't able to join me because he's actually in bed at the moment. But he passed his course, so yay, well done, Mark. But tonight I am joined by the lovely Penny Morgan, who does the Haunted Histories show on a Wednesday evening. Good evening, Penny.
Hello, how are you?
I'm absolutely fine, thank you. Are you nervous?
Nervous? If I say no, would you hold it against me?
Of course I wouldn't.
Well, I'm kind of nervous, but not because, I'm sure my history geek comes on at whim. So, I can just turn it on for you and we can geek out on this show.
We can geek out together.
We can geek out, yeah.
And we certainly will. Now, last week we did a replay show because I was actually away on holiday and I went to the Isle of Wight and I took the family, so it was a bit of a family holiday. So I thought this week we'd have a little talk about the Isle of Wight because it is billed as one of the most haunted places in the UK. In fact, it's billed as the most haunted island in the UK. And, it got me thinking. And, as I was staying in the shadow of Carisbrooke Castle, it got me thinking, why not do a show on some of these places? Now, Penny is amazing on her Haunted History show. If you've not caught it, you can catch it up. They've all gone to podcast. But she does an amazing...
Thank you.
She does. She doesn't. You do an amazing job, darling. I'm not going to lie. A little bit of girl love going on in the studio tonight between the two of us.
Bit of solidarity.
She does an amazing job, and so I thought I'd get her on because it's a perfect platform. Actually, I can use her skills, I think, is where I'm going with this. So the Isle of Wight. Penny, have you ever been to the Isle of Wight?
Do you want the short answer or the long answer?
Go for the long answer, darling.
Unfortunately not. I have never been to the Isle of Wight, but I have been to sort of Dorset and Hampshire that I suppose look down on it.
Yeah.
where people travel to it a lot from. So, but no, I have never been to the Isle of Wight. I haven't had the pleasure. If I'm digressing and talking a lot, when I went down to, I think it was the last time I went down to Hampshire, we were umming and ahhing about getting the ferry. I think it was from Southampton to the Isle of Wight for the day, but it was queuing, like there was no tomorrow just to get on the ferry, so we decided another day. But it's somewhere I'd like to see, definitely, because I like exploring, and as you say, it's got quite a lot of history attached to such a small place. It would definitely be somewhere. It's on my list of places. I think Jersey's another one when we're talking about islands that are nearby, or on my list of places to visit.
Yeah,
but no, I haven't been to the Isle of Wight.
It's absolutely beautiful, and if you ever
I saw your photos. I did see your photos. It did look stunning.
And that was only a small, I was doing a post a day, just sort of like bits and bobs. But it is absolutely beautiful. I love the Isle of Wight. I've been there quite a lot when I was younger.
Right.
And it was somewhere I wanted to take my children because obviously it had really good memories for myself. So we hired out a 17th century cottage, which was on a farm. So it was like in the middle of nowhere. And it's just
perfect.
lovely. I know. And it had so much character, this place. It was absolutely brilliant. And first thing I always do when I go, because I don't like to go to normal places. I like quirky, historic like places that you can hire out for the family. So we found this 17th century converted farm barn, basically, was what it was. And it was an old dairy. And when you walked in, you could see some of the original features, like the butter churns and stuff like that. It was absolutely lovely. It was really beautiful. And I like to, because I'm an energy girl, you know me and my energy.
You and your energies.
Yeah. And so it was, I also like to be able to get somewhere where I can get away from everything. So when I went into this cottage with my family, everyone was like, wow, it's beautiful, it's amazing. And it was lovely because you could also get away from each other in this place as well. It was set out really, really well. And the kids loved it because it was quite quirky and lots of little hidey holes and stuff like that. They had great fun hiding from me on many occasions. Little buggers. Love them.
They're too big now to hide, surely.
No, my little one, my little Leo Bean, he does find he can get himself into quite small places, believe it or not.
Yeah, try having a 3-year-old who thinks it's hilarious at the moment to hide from mummy.
I've been through that phase.
Yeah, I'm going through that at the moment.
Oh, it's not a good one, is it?
No. I'm suddenly developing the ability to sprint quite fast as well as he goes running towards the road.
Yeah.
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 Sorry.
I'm
your
purely
beautiful
sympathetic
cottage.
with you on that one. I know exactly where you're coming from. You develop a twitch. That's all I can say.
I've never been told I was a fast runner in my life until yesterday when I saw him heading towards the main road and I just sprinted off after him. And one of the other mums said, oh, Penny, you're fast. And I mean, that's not something I've ever been told in my entire life, but thanks.
It's amazing these skills you learn as a mum, isn't it?
Oh, tell me about it. Tell me about it. Learn to play elite hide and seek, don't you?
Oh, it takes it to a whole new level with a 3-year-old, I'm telling you now.
Yeah.
I mean, they
Especially
even
when
had
you
a
want some
games
peace and
room.
quiet.
The place we stayed even had a games room separate from the main building with like a pool table and stuff like that. That felt horrible. I hated it.
Really?
Yeah. We'd be over there at night and like, you know, playing pool and stuff with the kids and I couldn't wait to get away from it. I hated it.
You don't think by any chance, all right, let's get into the sort of spookiness now. All right, let's not beat around the bush. I'm going to mention something spooky. If that was an old sort of 1700s dairy, the chances are they slaughtered the beef there as well.
Yes, I agree.
Possibly that could have been the slaughter room.
It possibly could have been. There was in old slaughter rooms, you'll find that there's like a slant to the room, a very
so it
slight
could drain
slant to the
away.
room, and there'll be like a half a gutter in the flooring, and there was that underneath the carpet. As you walked, you could feel it. And
There you go. God, I'm good.
You are so good. Are you psychic?
Well, I'll tell you sometime what happened to me at New Town Fort last week. I think I upset the resident medium there, but never mind.
Oh, wow. Never mind.
Yeah, we'll talk about that one another time. Maybe not on air. Or it could even have been where they would have, I mean, to keep the cows permanently pregnant, they would have permanently exposed them to bulls back then because they didn't obviously have the chemicals to keep them pregnant, to keep milking them. So it could even have been where they separated them from the mothers from their calves and all that kind of stuff.
All I can say is it definitely had a horrible energy. And there was one night the boys went to bed and left the light on over there. And it was like 1 o'clock because my family go to bed so early. That's all I can say. I was sitting up like by 9 o'clock. I was sitting in the kitchen like twiddling my thumbs going, right, okay, so I'm back to normal work. Do you know what I mean? Because they just were in bed. And the kids were asleep by then because they were knackered. And I had to go over and turn the light off. And I had to go over there in the dark with my torch. And it was like, I don't get scared. When I go on paranormal investigations, I very, very rarely get scared. But on this particular night, when I had to go and turn the light off in the games room, that freaked me out just a little bit. I was like, let's just get it done and get back to the cottage.
But did you have your mega strobing disco torch with you?
Yes, I had my mega strobing disco torch.
Now, if anyone doesn't know what we're talking about, they probably think we're just having our own little conversation. When we did Clapham Woods, oh, crumbs, when was it? We did Clapham Woods a couple of months ago now.
Yeah, a little while ago now.
Miss Kerry had this amazing torch with her that actually flashed. And so every time it flashed, we started singing sort of 70s disco tunes because it was like a disco torch, hence the joke, the strobing 70s disco torch. It was funny at the time. It's one of those things you had to be there to find it funny because she was getting really irate with herself every time she turned it on, and it was flashing.
It was funny though, because I kept smacking my torch to stop it from working, and the knob bit fell off. I have trouble with my knobs, clearly, because my knob on my boiler fell off this week as well. And the knob on the thing, so I have quite long nails, and I can't get my finger into
Let that one go. I'm behaving. I've let go. You know damn well if we weren't on air, there's no way I would have let that one go.
I know. I so know that. No, I have trouble getting my finger into the end of the torch to turn the strobe bit off, honest to God. So anyway, I'm in this games room, like, switching lights off. And there's like, look, you have to actually go quite deep into the games room. It was quite a massive room. And to turn this light off, oh my God, it was horrible. Absolutely horrible. And there was one night where my sister, the next morning, she said to me, she says, what time was you up till? And I said, about 1 o'clock in the morning. She said, well, I got up. She said, because there was knocking at the door and I thought you'd locked yourself out for some reason. And I was like, no. And she was like, there was somebody knocking at the door. She goes, because she was on the ground floor just adjacent to the kitchen, which is where one of her rooms was with an ensuite. Anyway, she walked through the kitchen and there's the front door. And then there's like a little porchway and then there's like another door. And she goes, and I went out. She goes, and there was nobody there. And that was like the only spooky thing that happened in the actual cottage. But the games room was definitely a more darker, horrible, creepy kind of feel to it.
Did you have pheasants there?
Yeah.
Yeah. The knocking might have been a pheasant because my mum, I hate birds. I am terrified of birds. The average Hitchcock film, The Birds, is my ultimate nightmare. If I'm completely honest, I can't even hear it, watch it, even with the sound. I can't do it. I hate it. My mum and dad live out in the middle of nowhere in Norfolk, and my mum, sort of when I went to stay with her not so long ago, because they have a lot of pheasant keeping out in this village, they've got 2 or 3 big roosts, and she said, I've made friends with this pheasant. It comes and taps on the back door so that I feed it.
Yeah.
So it could even have been a tame pheasant wanting feeding, that people have been feeding from the cottage, because they are quite...
in the middle of the night?
In the middle of the... Could have been. Well, don't you remember in the woods there was that noise, and you lot were like, what's that? And I said, that's pheasants. They were calling out in the middle of the night. Yeah. It might have been the middle of the night, or it might have been quite early in the morning. Let's be, But yeah, they could be. I'm just trying to sort of options.
Yeah,
but yeah, my mum's pheasant used to knock on the back of the door. It used to it literally tapped the back of the door to let my mum know it was hungry.
Wow.
This pet pheasant. Because she said, if you ever hear tapping at the back door when you're staying, don't go and open it. Because I would probably... I'm not scared of many things. You've seen me on investigations. They don't freak me out at all.
No.
But when you lot wanted to walk into where that pheasant roost was, the fact there was probably a gamekeeper with a big shotgun, but it's the fact there was lots of birds. I would have run the opposite direction.
That was true.
Things.
Yeah, when we was at Clapham, that was a bit of a do we or don't we moment, wasn't it?
And Penny, the girl who grew up in the country, was saying, you don't. Yeah. You don't. Why don't we? Because there will be a very big gamekeeper with a very big gun. Because
I was ready to climb over fences and everything. She's going, Kerry, just don't do it. And this occasion, don't do it. It was really funny. Anyway, this cottage itself, back to the Isle of Wight, this cottage itself was set in literally the shadow of Carisbrooke Castle. So we could see the castle from, where we stayed, which was, fantastic to wake up to. It was absolutely beautiful.
Do you know much about the history of that castle?
No, well, I know a little bit because obviously I went there and did the museum and stuff, but I'm sure you know more than I do. So do you want to fill me in?
Well, I can. They actually believe it was one of the old-fashioned Motte and Bailey castles, which basically means it was they were constructed sometimes out of wood because some of them were pre-Roman. So quite a long time ago, and they didn't necessarily have the stone, so they might build them out of wood, but they'd build them on a big mound. And that I think Carisbrooke is meant to be pre-Roman, but I think it's some of the people who've, shall we say, stayed there that make it quite interesting.
Yeah, it is very much so. It's a fantastic place to go and visit. I'm not going to lie. We did do this, and it's, part of it's ruined. But you can, for kids, it's brilliant because they can climb all over the ruins and around the
I
the
prefer
walls
ruins.
and stuff.
I prefer ruins because you can use your imagination.
Yeah.
I do actually. I mean, there's a really good Kenilworth Castle in the well, it's not quite the Midlands, but Kenilworth Castle's ruins. It's like a red brick one, and that one's fascinating, and that is ruins.
Yeah.
But I prefer those than ones that have been re-mocked up to look like a certain thing, because it might not be completely what you'd have. You use your own. It's like reading a book. You use your own imagination. But did you bump into Charles? Was Charles there?
No, I didn't bump into Charles. But it's a bit half and half. Is Carisbrooke? You have got like some of it in ruins, but some of it is original as well. Like the actual museum house has been used. Even Queen Victoria's daughter Beatrice stayed there for quite a long time. She used it as a summer residence. So some of it is.
She was also the governor of the Isle of Wight for a while.
She was, yeah. So some of it is still in really good condition, and as it should have been. Do you know what I mean? So it's a fantastic place to visit if you ever get the chance. And I say the kids absolutely loved it. And the keep and like within the walls, you obviously couldn't access of an evening, but all the grounds and that you could. So we was walking around the most evenings, seeing what we could sense and see. Well, I was seeing what I could sense. The interesting thing about that is whenever I go to that kind of location, I always like to get 5 minutes to myself just to see what I can feel myself.
Yeah.
And I picked up on 2 different energy spots. We was up on the wall and I was looking across the castle, inside the castle, and I picked up on 2 very specific energy spots. And then my eldest son joined me, and I said to him, right, my eldest son is called Ryder, come here and see, where are you drawn to? And he knows about being drawn to places because of crystal work, because he does like the crystal side of things. And he pointed in exactly the same places that I was picking up on.
Wow.
And I found that really, really interesting. I mean, we weren't given the chance to explore that any further because obviously I'm with my family and, we're on holiday and stuff like that. But that I found, I mean, he was like, I'm picking up it here and I'm picking it over there. And I was like, yep, that's exactly where I'm picking it up. And we did go and explore a little bit. And then when we went into one of the areas, I was like, right, you felt an energy spot here. So now what do you feel? And he's actually feeling just the same as I'm feeling. And I find that really interesting. And I wasn't prompting him at all in any way, shape or form, except for, what are you feeling?
Yeah.
And just letting him do what he does. So, yeah, I've got high hopes for my rider. I'm not going to lie.
Good. Future Parasearch presenter then. You
never know. Every night he gags to get onto the radio, but I won't allow him yet. He's far too young.
Well, actually, that castle, Charles I stayed there when we were sort of joking about, did you see Charles? He stayed there for, it was around 10 months after he was arrested. I think it was about 1647 he stayed there. But what I found out that I found quite spooky, his daughter Elizabeth stayed there as well at 14, and she died there. And she was actually found dead with her face on a Bible. And the Bible was the last gift her father had given her.
Oh, see, that's quite sad, isn't it?
It's very sad, but it's also I find that quite interesting. Yeah. The energies you're talking about on the keep, the castle itself has undergone quite a lot of renovations. I know during, I think it was Henry V, during the French Wars, he did some sort of extensions to it, but a lot of them were done during the Elizabethan era even, when she was updating a lot of the castles that could intervene if the Spanish Armada was coming across the channel. And she was the one that built an awful lot of the keep and all that kind of thing as additional armaments, so to hold additional armaments to keep watch for the Spanish Armada.
Yeah.
So that could have been what you felt. You felt one of the soldiers who would have been patrolling it, watching out.
Wow.
Could have been.
Could have been. Who knows? As I say, I didn't get the chance to spend a longer time trying to link in. So, that was the only thing I can say is just I felt 2 energy spots. I really didn't get any more than that because of the time and people and situation that I was in at the time. Yeah. But I just found it quite interesting that Ryder was able to link into exactly the same 2 spots that I was linking into. Yeah. So that was quite something. Now,
kids are amazing, though, for doing that. I mean, my 7-year-old has done that with me before. When I was these woods where my parents lived, that it was during World War II. I didn't find this out until a few years ago. My dad told me there was over 300 personnel, or more than that actually, who lived in these woods because the head office was the big sort of stately home that was next door to them. Excuse me. And I could feel there was someone behind us, but I kept walking because I didn't want to freak my son out. And he just kept turning around and saying, "Mummy, who's watching us? Mummy, who's behind us?" Yeah. And I hadn't told him. I could feel someone on my shoulder. So yeah, kids are amazing at, they are amazing. As long as you don't discourage them from what they see and feel, they're amazing. They are amazing. They come up
with some really strange things sometimes, don't they?
Are we still talking about paranormal here, or just in general?
Well, both. they're quite strange creatures, children in general, but no, paranormally wise. Yeah. When you go to historic places or places in general, they do come out with some really strange things, particularly if like they obviously see me work in the way I do quite a lot in my crystal room, and when we go to locations, if I spend 5 minutes just having a moment and trying to feel the location. Ryder in particular, Leo not so much. Leo's more of a climber. He'll be halfway up the keep wall before I notice. And but Ryder will be there with me going, okay, where are we going with this? What are we going to do? And it's really interesting. It's really great that he's interested in that. I love that side of it, and it's brilliant. And then I get pulled away going, Leo, get off the wall!
I know that feeling.
Shouldn't be 20 foot off the ground just by climbing a brick wall. Jesus Christ, get down.
Yes, I know that feeling.
Mini meltdown moment. But while I was there, they actually ran a ghost walk.
All right.
And it started at Carisbrooke Castle. So it was so close, it would be rude not to do it. Now, the gentleman that did it with me was a guy called Mark Tuckey. And if you're ever on the Isle of Wight and you want to do a ghost walk, because they do walks across the entire island, have a look at www.ghostisland.com because you'll find details of all the walks they do. He was brilliant. Now, this was a traditional kind of ghost walk. They had actors jumping out and everything, which I have to say, I didn't jump at. I didn't freak out. I knew when it was coming. You kind of get don't you? You know when these sort of things are going to happen, particularly if you've done a few of them. And, being a paranormal investigator, sometimes you just don't get that jumpy, So I was laughing. The only time I freaked out was this huge moth came out of the tree and got into my hair. And then I freaked out.
That would do me in as well. Anything flaps, anything that flies, I can't cope with it.
Bats, no problem, but this moth actually was in my hair, and I did a proper, oh my god, and flap, running around in a circle kind of moment, which everybody found hysterical because I've been so hardcore throughout the whole of the thing. But the 2 actor lads that were with him were brilliant. For everybody else, you get a little bit jaded, I suppose, is the expression when you've done a few ghost walks. But they were brilliant, and everybody really, really enjoyed the tour. Now, he told some amazing stories, and as I say, we started at Carisbrooke Castle, and he told of this grey lady that would walk regularly through the grounds. So of an evening, it would be rude not to, wouldn't it? Just in case you encountered the grey lady with her dogs.
Well, didn't she have a bloke with her as well, who's in like a leather, is it jerkin, whatever they called it, the leather waistcoaty thing? He's with her as well, isn't he, or something?
Well, she's been seen with him and without him.
Oh, okay.
But they also link her to Princess Beatrice, who had 2 small dogs that used to get walked by one of her ladies in waiting. So there's a bit of they're not quite sure who she is. You know what I mean? This grey lady that walks these dogs. But apparently she's been seen around, the moat obviously is dry. And you can walk quite a lot of the grounds at night. And she's been seen quite often. So, as I say, it would have been rude not to walk those grounds of an evening. So, so we did. I made the children do it quite a lot on the assumption that it was actually a nature walk. Let's see what bats we can see, and let's see whether we can see badgers and foxes and rabbits and stuff like that, which we did see all of those things. But we didn't see the grey lady, I'm afraid.
Did you go and see the well that's there?
Yes, I did see the well. I was holding my phone over this well. It's one of those moments where you're like, I'm going to drop my phone. You just know I'm going to do it. Just get a photograph down the well. And there's like this iron grid right across the top of it. So it wasn't a great photo. But this is a report of a girl called Elizabeth Ruffin who fell into the hole, but nobody was around to hear her desperate cries, and obviously she drowned. But apparently if you stare down into this well long enough, you see her face crying. Now, a psychic has been there before and has said that she picked up that this lady down the well was saying, I didn't mean to do it. And the theory is she actually committed suicide rather than just fell into the well. So, that was quite...
Well, she wasn't very old. She was the daughter of the mayor of Newport.
That's right, yeah.
Apparently it was in 1632. There's a very, when you're looking at sort of historical stuff, finding verification of things, especially that sort of long ago, is actually really hard. But a lot of these main sort of places had what they called diarists who were responsible for making the notes of everything, that almost like the newspapers of their day, if you like. And the main one for the Isle of Wight was a guy by the name of Oglander. But he put in his reports about Elizabeth Ruffin and the fact that she was the daughter of the mayor of Newport. But that's about all he put about her. So, yeah, again, she wasn't very old.
No, she wasn't. It was very sketchy. But I did try to get a photograph of down the well, just in case, because you never know what you might.
The only thing is, there is actually it's like a thing that the brain does. That if you stare at something reflective for long enough, you will see an image, won't you? Mm-hmm. It's kind of almost. It's not pareidolia, but it's
almost
similar.
A scrying thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
You look into a crystal ball or a bowl of ink or something along those lines. That's where that theory comes from, isn't it?
But so it could be if people are staring at the water for long enough, they will see a face coming back, looking back at them, because it would be interesting to see if someone who didn't know the myth or the story or the folklore, whatever you want to call it, who saw something. They're the ones who I'd be interested in hearing from. Because they wouldn't know that they're supposed to see a face. Does that make sense? They wouldn't know
I know
that
exactly
they're
what you
supposed to
mean.
see a face. But yeah, coupled with birds, that being trapped in an enclosed space in water, that would probably be my second worst way to go. The first would be being mobbed by birds squawking and flapping at me. Are we doing anything that's going? Yeah, are we doing anything that involves heights as well? Because if that's the case, then you've got my third least favourite thing. So, have we got anything involving heights?
Not that I'm aware of just yet.
Okay, just two of my sort of least favourite ways to go.
I'll bear that in mind when I'm looking at doing events.
Cheers, thanks. When you've got a husband who's a roofer who go up on a 6-story roof and walk around on it with no harness or anything and laugh. And his wife struggles to stand on a flat roof that's like 1 story up without standing in the middle of it going, I ain't moving.
You definitely wouldn't have gone up to the keep then, because that was really, really high. And you can actually walk around like the top wall of the keep. And as I say, my Leo is such a little daredevil. He's skipping around the top and I'm like, Leo, you're giving me nightmares. Will you stop down? You're sitting anxiety
Wayne would be the one to do that. I know I'm digressing here, but when we went to Mexico, you've got those beautiful sort of, because we went to Chichen Itza and another one of the Mayan villages that most people haven't heard of called Coba, which is in this jungle. It's absolutely beautiful. And they don't do health and safety in Mexico. It's a bit like Greece and places like that. Yeah. It's like, you want to go up there, it's 300 foot high and there's no sort of banister and the stones are all eroded. Yeah, feel free, fill your boots. And Wayne's like, do you want to go up it? It's one of those sort of, the pyramid temples that they have. And I was like, nah, all you've got is a thin rope down the middle that's not even taut. Yeah. It was literally like, almost like abseiling to come down. And I said, as much as I would love to see the view, here's the camera, take some photos for me. Because he could literally, you're saying about Leo skipping around this. Yeah, Wayne could run up and down this because it was similar gradient to a roof. He was fine. The amount of people he had to help back down when he was coming on his way back down because they couldn't get down. He was literally going up and down, helping people come back down because he's so confident with heights and slopes and stuff. I was just sitting there sort of under the shade of a tree, just absorbing the place because it had such a nice vibe as I watched my husband, literally, my new husband at the time, literally just helping people down who got stuck because you wouldn't have been allowed to do it in most countries because this thing was I'm surprised nobody died.
Well, the stairs up to the keep are really steep, and going up is fine. Coming down, I actually turned around to Leo, this bad mother alert, right? I went, you go down first, I'm going to stay here.
You've got a soft landing.
Hold on, go down, and I'll meet you at the bottom, right? So I made him go down on his own without me, because I just couldn't watch him, because he's so...
And how old is Leo?
10.
Okay.
So he's not a baby, he's not a baby. And he's quite competent, but he just seems so reckless. And like I say, it just seems to skip down them without an issue. And it gives me kittens. It absolutely gives me kittens.
Imagine.
And I got him to text me at the bottom, when he got to the bottom, to say, it's safe, I'm at the bottom, I'm fine, and you can come down now. And there's me coming down like one step at a time, because the gradient of these steps, and they're not even, and they're stone, and oh God. Anyway, I managed to get down. I got down fine. If I'd watched him, I would have been like, oh my God, Leo, and I would have freaked him out more by doing that.
The only way I can get down I have to have Wayne goes in front of me. He turns backwards and literally holds my hands as I'm coming down one step. I'm like it when I go to places like Twickenham, the rugby stadium and stuff, because the steps there are so steep. And if you're up in the gods, I just look down and I think, whoa, I am going to fall. And you've got so many people coming down. He has to go in front of me. So I am literally holding onto his shoulders so that if someone shoves me, I shove into him. And his balance is so good. Yeah. So no, that's my worst thing. That's part of the reason I don't go up into these things, because I have to come back down. If I didn't have to come back down, I'd be all right.
Or I come down on my bottom, and that's never a good look. Doesn't do my street cred any good whatsoever.
True. And cold stone steps on your bum probably aren't very healthy.
No, not really. But as I say, I managed to get down without going down on my bottom. I'd just like to point that out. But did it have a friendly vibe? Is it a friendly vibe at Carrisbrook, or is it quite a... No, it's lovely, actually. It's not a bad vibe at all. There is an underlying seriousness to it. It's got a really family feel to it, but there is an underlying seriousness to it. There are certain areas that have a more deeper, I suppose you wouldn't call it, vibe. As I said, I didn't get a chance to fully explore the energy levels, but as you walk around it, you can definitely feel a more family vibe to a working vibe to a more serious vibe. There was one particular room that I didn't like whatsoever, but I wasn't in there long enough to, explore it, because as I say, I'm with family. It's a family day out. But I would love to be able to get in there and investigate, but you can't. They don't accept it. I did ask.
Oh, right.
One thing that did interest me in the museum, they had a seismic meter, excuse me, measuring the land movement. And that interested me quite a lot. Me and Leo stood there looking at that quite a lot. There's a lot more seismic movement than I thought there would be, but they were measuring it. So I was like, oh, okay. It was like, and I was trying to explain to him what it was measuring and stuff like that. So that interested me, that they had a seismic meter there. But that was quite interesting. Anyway, at that point, we really need to take a little break. So we'll take a little break, and then we'll come back and continue with this conversation.
Ooh, can we talk about smugglers next?
Go on then. We'll go smugglers next, because you do like a bit of smugglers, don't you?
Oh, well, it's dark and dirty. Let's get on with it.
We're starting to get to know Penny a little bit more.
Is Harry coming in for a chat?
Harry's going to come along for just a little chat, so we'll be right back.
Wednesday, he's busy.
Oh, well, he's coming tonight, so we'll just take a quick break.
Hello, Harry Price here. Good evening. If there's nothing myself and everybody else enjoy here on the other side more is the sit back and relax and listen to Parasearch Radio with its paranormal news, views and reviews from across the UK and beyond. Make sure to find out more about them on Facebook, Twitter, and the World Wide Web, whatever they are, to keep up to date with all their broadcasts throughout the week. And I hope you enjoy them as much as we do over here. Hello? Is anybody there?
Welcome back. You're listening to the Dark Mirror Show. I am Kerry Greenaway, and tonight I am joined by my lovely co-host Penny Morgan, who does the Haunted Histories show on a Wednesday night. We're talking all things Isle of Wight tonight. Now, we've covered pretty much the Carisbrooke Castle, which is where I was staying, and now we're going to go on to a little bit more about smugglers. Now, the island was prolific in smuggling back in the day, and nearly everybody was involved in it on the island. Now, the thing with smuggling is there were 2 or 3 ways they used to do it. Now, one of them was to actually deliberately wreck a ship and nick the cargo. The second was wait until a ship actually crashed onto the rocks and then go out and steal the cargo. Another one was actually to get involved with the local landlord or the local church, and they would have the money to buy the stock and import it, and it not be too much of an issue to get around the tax people. So there were 2 or 3 ways that they used to do it. Now, as I say, the Canvey Island.
God, we've jumped.
Oh, sorry, I've gone back home. The Isle of Wight was renowned for it, and it has a huge history, doesn't it, Penny, about smuggling?
Yeah, yeah. Doesn't surprise me, though, if I'm honest, because of Dorset and Hampshire. Dorset especially has got a massive history of smuggling, and there being a smuggler's cove and all the different bays that were quite secluded and very easy to use. So it doesn't surprise me that the Isle of Wight, plus the fact it was a small island, hey, everyone's got to have a job.
Well, they certainly did seem to have jobs, particularly with the smuggling. Now, when we was on this walk, Mark actually pointed out that tea was more expensive than gold at one point. Mm-hmm. And that puts it in perspective for you. Mm. When, tea is more expensive, you can imagine that the, tax people, they're not called tax people, are they? The customs people would, be really trying to control this because of the money that would go into the coffers, as it were. So you can understand. Now, the island, like you said, is full of bays and, shines and stuff like that. Chines, sorry, not shines. Chines.
I was going to ask you how that was pronounced anyway later, but there you go.
It's a chine, not a shine.
Yeah. Well, it might be a well-polished chine, so it could be a shiny chine. Go on.
And there's even caves and stuff on the Isle of Wight which they would have used, for this smuggling. Now, I did get told one story about the local church, because the local church in Carisbrooke, there was a grave that actually had a skull and crossbones on it, which was renowned to be a smuggler's grave. And what they used to do is they had a lot of tombs, the graves that haven't just got a grave's headstone, they've actually got like a concrete tomb. And the smugglers, if the customs men were coming along, would hide it inside the tombs, because the body isn't in the actual tomb, it's actually in the ground. The tomb is just a tomb. So they would actually hide inside there. And he told us some funny stories, alleged stories, I'd like to add, folklore stories that have been passed down over the years of, people hiding in them for the customs and then popping out of nowhere and scaring people in the middle of the night. It was quite funny, but yeah, we saw that. I witnessed that. I actually posted that on my Facebook page, the actual grave that I found in the local church. But tell me a little bit more about smugglers on the Isle of Wight.
Well, the only thing I was just thinking is, as you were talking about them pretending to be, because one of the things that they used to do is where they used to keep their ill-gotten gains, if you like, in churchyards and everything else, in fake graves, in fake barrels, in fake whatever. They'd invented all these sort of paranormal stories, like places were really, really haunted, to keep people away from these, where their hideouts were, for want of a better term. It just makes me think of Scooby-Doo. Because isn't that what happens in Scooby-Doo quite a lot? That the protagonist will invent a ghost or become a ghost to keep those pesky kids away from whatever it is they're trying to distract them from, like create an an illusion of whatever. That's just what it made me think of, Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, it's true.
Isn't it? One of a massive industry back in the sort of, 1700s was wool.
Yes.
And if anyone listened to my excellent show this Wednesday just gone about the textile mills, we talked about wool mills. Thank you. I'm not going to repeat it all now because, you can, if you haven't listened to it, you can. But one of the things that I found out researching for that show is that even though the population of the UK was around 3 million in the sort of early 1700s, it was supporting something like 8 million sheep.
Yeah.
So, and wool, because we didn't have cotton and all of that kind of thing, wool was very, very, well, it was a very expensive commodity. And a lot of places, places like in East Anglia and stuff like that, the whole community was built on the wool that the community produced. Yeah. So when it came to smuggling wool would have been quite a good one. And I would guess the terrain in the Isle of Wight is very conducive to sheep farming.
Yeah.
So there would have been quite a lot of wool that they could have, if you like, smuggled out of the island to make money on. So I think that was one of the big trades that they were trying to protect against, from what I read.
Yeah,
anyway,
very much so. I mean, and you've got to also remember that the Isle of Wight was an independent principality. So it was completely independent from like the mainland until the 13th century. So it really does lend its, situation to illicit means. I think is the expression. So one of the most famous smuggling families on the island was called the Wheelers, and they lived in a cottage called Box Cottage. And that was actually in Chale. And you talked about Scooby-Doo, and they did exactly that. They used otherworldly happenings to scare away people from the churchyard at night because they used it so prolifically for their ill-gotten gains.
Yeah. So I just thought of Scooby-Doo. That's just what it made me think
you can almost see it, can't you, in the 13th century? Ooh, in the churchyard.
I don't even think you have to go that far back. I mean, you think of even back in the Victorian age, people believed, that they would believe folklore and everything else. I mean, if you didn't give your money to the church, you were going to go to hell and all that kind of thing. They still believed that very, very strongly. So it wouldn't surprise me if those myths sort of got passed down through the generations and people said, oh, you don't go to that churchyard after midnight because it didn't even have to be that far back. It could have been relatively recently in historical terms. So, and let's be honest, smuggling of some form does still go on. In fact, when I was looking up smuggling on the Isle of Wight, I found stories from the early 2000s about drug smuggling, the island being used for drug smuggling because it's still so lightly guarded. Boats who could navigate the water were being able to land to smuggle drugs. Yeah. Even now.
Yeah.
So it's still a smuggler's haven, if you like, because of the fact it's so close to the UK, but it's also quite lightly guarded, which has always been the case.
It has been, but there is a history regarding the world wars, isn't there, on the island?
Definitely. Those chines that you mentioned, how are they formed?
Well, a chine is basically, it's where the springs have carved a hole within the limestone that is predominant on the island. It's quite soft, the Isle of Wight. There's a lot of soft materials, clays and limestones and sandstones and stuff like that. So it in the natural springs, and there's a lot of them on the Isle of Wight, carved natural like chines, and they're basically a gash in the side of the cliff face. And, there's beautiful waterfalls and stuff like that go down them, and some of them have been, like customised and touristed up. And they're absolutely beautiful to walk down. But, they're perfect to give you easy access to the beach and stuff like that. So they would have been, perfect for smuggling. I believe Shanklin Chine actually has I can't think of the word now. Oh
I
my
don't know.
God, I've
I
just
don't
got
know what
mind
you're trying
blank. It was to do with the cross-Atlantic communication system.
Oh no, you're not talking about the pipeline that they laid for the D-Day landings.
That's the one.
Pluto.
Tell me about that.
Pluto. Pluto, which stood for pipeline under the ocean. I can't remember how many miles it was. It was a pipeline they laid. It was about 800 miles long, and it was to deliver petrol for the D-Day landings on the
That's
beaches.
it. Yes.
And apparently it took like something ridiculous, like 2 years to plan, but only 10 hours to lay.
Yeah. And that ran down one of the chines. I think it's
yeah.
Shanklin.
Apparently you can still see it. You can still see parts of it. Yeah.
On the beach, you can.
Yeah, that's quite a phenomenal sort of
Feet.
1940s to lay an underground pipeline under the channel to the D-Day beaches. They also, because obviously the Isle of Wight, even though it is part of the UK, I don't know how far off land is it? How far off the mainland, do you know?
Not off the top of my head, but it's not that far. It really
No.
isn't that far. I mean, it's about an hour on the ferry, not that long at all.
But it's sitting in the channel. Obviously, it was a perfect place. They were quite concerned that it could be a landing place if there was an invasion across the channel. Especially there was two of the chines. I think there was Whale and Grange were the two ones they thought were most likely to be used if they were done as landing places. So they did actually have fortifications in those parts. But they also used one of the chines as an assault course for the commandos in 1942 who were getting ready for the Dieppe landings. So the island itself did see an awful lot of usage, shall we say. There's other things as well that were used on the island. In World War One as well, there were things on the island that were used. It has associated with it from World War One. So it does have an awful lot of usage in that respect for the wars, but they were concerned that the Isle of Wight would be used as a stopping point for any potential invasions. So those two chines, Whale and Grange, had fortifications put into them to stop that happening.
And also, I believe that Marconi is very prevalent on the island. He had, he was the inventor of the wireless radio.
Yeah, he used to stay there quite a lot. He met his first, even though he was Italian, very, very Italian. And in fact, I've got kind of, not links in a sort of family way to Marconi, but I live in Chelmsford. It's where Marconi's factory was. And in fact, my son's school, they each have a house that they belong to. My son belongs to Marconi, believe it or not. And this is true. So last year, he had to do an assembly piece at 6 on Marconi. And so we actually did talk about the fact that Marconi did the first transatlantic transmission by radio in 1902.
Yeah.
He also he actually met his wife in Poole in Dorset, which obviously isn't too far from the Isle of Wight, and he used to stay in a cottage in the Isle of Wight quite frequently.
He did.
Even though he was very much Italian, and he went back to Italy in I think about 1934, dying there in 1937. But yeah, his first wife he met her in Poole. So yeah,
now, if you go to Allen Bay, right at the top of the cliff at Allen Bay, there is a massive station, World War II station that used for transatlantic communications through World War II, which you can visit, which was quite something. I mean, we did visit Allen Bay. Now, one of the things that I did look into is why is the Isle of, I mean, literally everywhere you go on the Isle of Wight, there are haunted stories and ghost stories. You can find a literal, I love this word, plethora of haunted tales.
You've been nicking my thesaurus of words, haven't you? Because that's one of my favourite words as well. If you inject soporific into this, I'm going to be really annoyed.
Oh, no, I'm not allowed to use that now. No,
I'll let you use it, but not today, because I was going to use it at some point, and now I can't use plethora now.
Well, I've used plethora. You can go for the other one. No, there is so much on the Isle of Wight. It is literally... everywhere I went, there was ghost stories, and they lived off of that. Everywhere you went, it was like so... You could, everywhere was happy to talk to you about ghost stories and, their local haunting or their experience or stuff like that. And, you know, even in like menus and stuff, it's like, oh, the ghost of so and so is supposed to haunt this place, and you're like, all right, okay. So it got me thinking, why is the Isle of Wight in particular really, really prevalent with hauntings? Now, as you know, I've told you that the geology of the island is basically split into two. Mm-hmm. Now, the north of the island is predominantly limestone and marl, and it's great for fossils as well if you're a fossil hunter. So, you know, the geology of the land is really ancient. And so that's the north of the island. And then it's got like a level of chalk that runs through it, like a seam of chalk that runs through it. And then the second half of the island is a lot more green sand, which is basically sandstone and clay, which is, when it gets exposed to air, it actually hardens up, so it feels very rock-like. But when it's like underground, it's quite soft. So it's got this, you know, duality to it, this island. But one thing that's sure throughout the entire island is a heavy quartz factor in the sands. It's really heavy in quartz. Now, the other thing is limestone itself doesn't really correlate to haunted spots. When you look at other geological areas, limestone itself doesn't. But when you get limestone and you get a natural spring that runs through the limestone, then you seem to find hauntings. Now, on the Isle of Wight, there are several natural freshwater springs that run through the limestone. So between this limestone springs and quartz factor, I started thinking, well, I mean, I can't prove this, but I kind of was thinking that could be a reason why it's so haunted, because it is incredibly prolific on the island.
Yeah. Could it also be because it's an island, so, you know, the whole being surrounded by water thing as well?
Well, the whole of the UK is surrounded by water, and we do seem to have an awful lot of hauntings, don't we?
Yeah, yeah.
You know.
But I was also thinking, you were saying about the Isle of Wight, I was thinking of another part of the UK which always seems to be quite prolific for ghost stories and stuff, is Cornwall. Now,
yeah.
Could it be something to do with the fact that those two were probably quite late to become part of the UK? So they would have had their own legends for such a long time as well. I'm not just thinking about the geological reasons why, but I always think of Cornwall as being very, very sort of mythical and, if you like, ghosty. That's a technical term.
No, that's true.
Ghosty.
That's true. They have a very different, steeped folklore history in, you know, Cornwall, Somerset, Devon, and the Isle of Wight has its own as well. So, you know, when you start looking at that, you start going, okay, so you look at the geological factors. I mean, you've got to remember that Cornwall and Devon, again, are very, like, you call it the Jurassic Coast down there, don't you? Because there's so much in there. But is it the formation of the rock and the freshwater springs that are prolific in both those areas? Or is it just, you know, circumstantial?
6 1, half a dozen of the other.
I honestly
Could
don't
be.
know.
Could
I mean,
be.
mineral concentrations such as oil, quartz and coal are known to spike EMF frequencies.
Right.
They're actually known for that. And mining them in particular raises a location's energy, EMF energy. I know that for a fact. That's a proven
Well, that would mean
scientific
places
fact.
like Yorkshire and Wales and stuff
And
like that.
Lancashire and stuff
Sky
like
high.
that, yeah, more so than these places. I mean, one thing that they didn't do, there are no oil or coal on the Isle of Wight at all. It gets dredged for sand, it gets dredged for stuff like that. I mean, I looked into Allen Bay because it's famous for its sands, isn't it?
I don't know.
There are 21 different coloured sands, but they're available at
Really?
different times. Yeah, 21 different coloured sands at Allen Bay, which is why you get like the multicoloured, you know, you can make up your own little shape with different coloured sands. Now, they're made up of 3 main minerals, which is quartz, felspar and mica. Now, in their pure state, they're white. Now, it's called Allen Bay because alum is a hugely industrial used product, you know, and that is basically from, you know, this kind of geological makeup. Now, the different colours get made up from different inclusions into the sand, like hematite, you know, glauconite, carbon, limonite, that sort of thing. And one of them is predominantly iron, which gives it that greeny kind of colour to some of the sand that's there. And Allen Bay is just a pure example of geological movements because as the land has moved, it's created bands in the sand, in the cliff face basically, and erosion obviously shows the sands at different times at different colours and stuff like that. So you see these inclusions, which makes it so incredibly beautiful to look at. I mean, it's absolutely fascinating to look at. But all these factors made me think, is that one of the reasons why the Isle of Wight is so haunted, between the high quartz level in the sands, the limestone with the fresh springs? Is that one of the reasons why it seems to be so haunted? Or are they just jumping on the old bandwagon of, we know we can get people to come here if it's haunted? I don't know.
No. It has had a lot of bad stuff happen to such a small area, though. I mean, back in during World War One, I think it was in 1917, possibly late 1917, there was a ship coming with over 900 South Africans. It was called the SS Mendy, and that got hit by a larger ship off the coast of the Isle of Wight, and over 600 men died.
Yeah. Now
these men, nobody ever really knows about. I'd never heard of it until I was sort of looking it up. But most people don't think of. They think of people who died in World War One as being shot in the trenches and stuff.
Yeah.
But this ship, that was over 600 men who were coming from South Africa to fight for the British, because they needed manpower at that point of the war. And the ship that hit them didn't actually stop to begin with. It carried on going and was letting them. It took only under half an hour for the ship to sink. And something like over 600 men lost their lives off the coast of the Isle of Wight. So with things like that, and then you've got the horrific stuff that happened at Arreton Manor.
Yeah.
With is it Barnaby Lee?
Yeah.
Being suffocated by his own son, and then his son throwing his little sister out of a window because she saw what happened. But that place in my view must be, I'm not into curses and stuff, but I think that place has got must have quite a lot of bad juju. Because
I've been there, not this time when I went to the Isle of Wight this time, but previously when I was a child, and I remember having such a big déjà vu when I was at Arreton Manor. And funnily enough, there's like a craft village there, and I went there this time, and there's a crystal shop there. I won't name it, but it's in Arreton. And the worst feeling in the world, in any crystal shop in the world I've been to. Oh my God. It felt like oil creeping over my skin. I was like,
really?
Oh my God. Now, you know me and crystals. I go into every crystal shop. I went into a lot of different crystal shops on the island. And, oh my goodness, this place, it literally felt like oil was going over my skin. It was awful, and I couldn't understand why. I had to get out of there. Now, I've never gone to a crystal shop and not bought a crystal unless it's really overpriced. Do you know what I mean? And this shop, I just was like, oh. And some of it was really weird, because some of the crystals were really overpriced for what they were, and some of them were really underpriced. It was just everything about the energy of that shop was off. It was weird. I can't. Well,
there's something not right in that manor, because after Barnaby died, back in the sort of 1600s, a woman couldn't. The widow wouldn't then own the property. It would go down to the next male heir. Yeah. In that case, it was her brothers. Now, her two brothers, James and Thomas, apparently duelled over who was to own the property, own Arreton Manor, and one of them died in the duel. The other one died 3 days later.
Oh my goodness!
So it's just like this place has just got nothing but sort of bad stuff. But what was in, that diarist I mentioned earlier, Oglander?
Yeah.
Well, he actually put about the whole Lee incident, and from what I could make out from what I was looking up, the son who murdered his dad never ever got reprimanded for it. Actually became knighted and didn't die until he was 84.
Oh my word! So
there's sort of like, well, did he really kill both his sister and his dad, or is it folklore, or did he just never get found out? Because if he'd got found out that he'd done it and then he got knighted, that's quite. In fact, I think he was even the governor of. He held quite a sort of illustrious position in society as well. So it was almost like if he did do it, he was rewarded for killing two people. And then you're looking at going even further, because I know we're running out of time. You've got Osborne House as well, haven't you?
Yeah, which was Queen Victoria's residence on the Isle of Wight.
She died there.
Yeah.
She died there in 1901.
Again, a beautiful place. If you get a chance to go, again, a fantastic place to go.
Well, the interesting thing about Victoria, obviously the fact she went into mourning after Albert, who was her first cousin, died. He died in 1861. I think it was typhoid fever or something, so they believed at the time. But she always blamed her son, the Prince of Wales, for killing his father, because his father got ill while trying to investigate the truth that the Prince of Wales had been sleeping with some Irish actress and was a philanderer. Hey, there you go. But that she always blamed her eldest son, the Prince of Wales, and he wasn't meant to be a bit of a cad. But so she actually died there in 1901, which is sometimes where she's reported to be seen shuffling about. But what's the feeling at Osborne? Is it a nice place? Do you get any kind of feelings there?
Yeah, it is really, really nice. It's really quite an interesting place. You do get different vibes in different rooms. There was one place, I know a visitor was getting really bad heartburn, never got heartburn in her life, went into this particular room, had really bad heartburn. And the heartburn she was feeling in that place was, funnily enough, the place that Queen Victoria used to keep all of her medicines. And Queen Victoria herself used to suffer from heartburn. And it was only when she left the room that this heartburn faded. So there is definite energy at Osborne House. There is a place called Swiss Cottage, the Swiss Cottage, which was the playhouse. Now, this is a playhouse, right? You got kids, you take them to the Swiss Cottage, they want a playhouse. This is like a mini house, you know what I mean? It is beautiful. Again, it's royalty, so you can imagine, can't you? And it's like a mini house for the children, which is down by, you go down this beautiful avenue, and it's there. And it's set in gorgeous little gardens and stuff like that. And that has such a distinctly different feel from the main house. And when we was in there, you could almost hear the giggling and the playing and stuff like that. It really had that kind of vibe to it. But it has got a very, what you would expect from royal residence. But you do pick up on different energy levels as you walk around the house. But there's so much residual in these places because they have so many artifacts that are, so old and have so much history themselves.
Well, Osborne wasn't just used as a royal residence because after Victoria died, she'd stipulated she wanted it to stay in the family. But I think she gave it to her two daughters, Beatrice and Louise, I think it was. They didn't want it. So they then gave it away, and it ended up being used by the Royal Navy for about 18 years, as a junior officer training centre. But during World War I, it was actually used as an officers' convalescent home.
That's right.
And Robert Graves, the very famous poet, had to stay there, and so did A.A. Milne, creator of Winnie the Pooh. He stayed there as well, convalescing. So the different levels that wasn't. I think it wouldn't surprise me, and like you say with artifacts, well, it's a known paranormal belief that artifacts carry energies. So, but I just think it's the transitions in its usage would be very interesting as well. The fact it wasn't just it was a happy home, then it was probably a not so happy home when Victoria was there without Albert.
Yeah. And
then it became somewhere where people were almost reliving the horrors of what they'd seen in World War One.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, amazing different levels of energy. Amazing.
Everywhere you go, it feels, if there's something, you're feeling something. But so you don't get time to really explore it because you're on, and there's so many people there as well. It gets so busy at that place.
Do they allow paranormal investigations there, do you know?
No. No, they don't.
Spoil sports.
I know. I do try. I do ask. I do try and get in, but no, none of the locations we've spoken about tonight allow it, as far as I'm aware. I was talking paranormal quite a lot where I could on the island because, as I say, it was so prolific. Of ghost stories. We're going to the local pub and people were happy to talk about their local experience. I mean, every pub was just like, and trust me, I saw quite a few pubs. Had a story or other about a smuggler or a ghost, or they'd witnessed something in the village or something like that. There's a lot of little villages rather than big towns on the Isle of Wight. which and so many old properties as well on the Isle of Wight. Now we're running over again. This is the girls talking and the lads. I ran over last night. I'm going to get so told off by the boss. I'm telling you now. So we better wrap it up. But we've really just scratched the surface of the Isle of Wight. But because I'd been there last week, I wanted to just give a nod to the history and the historic and hauntings of the Isle of Wight this week. Thank you so much for joining me, Penny. It's been absolutely brilliant.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Anytime.
I really enjoyed it. And you do know your history, my darling.
I try.
Thank you so much for joining us in the chat room tonight. Don't forget, you can check out all our past shows on Parasearch Radio. And we are on YouTube as well as Spreaker. And you can find any up-to-date information on Twitter and obviously on Facebook. So thank you so much again for listening. Tune in over the weekend. You never know what might just happen to pop up. We're not quite sure where we're going with that yet, but we'll see. And if not, we'll be back next week with shows every night of the week. Have a lovely weekend and good night.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to join us for more shows throughout the week. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and the World Wide Web to keep up to date with all the shows right here on Parasearch Radio.